Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and yes, today's video is going to be a little bit different than normal. Normally I'm talking to you about fun stuff like aquariums or games, but today I want to talk to you about the power of a tornado. It's all coming up right after this.
Wow. That's Billy and Tisha's house.
Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec. My wife Holly, her mom lives in Chattanooga, and around Easter Day, or about midnight Easter, for about half an hour, 45 minutes, a tornado hit the area where she lives. She went down into her basement with her dogs and kind of just listened at all the chaos happening around her. She said she could hear trees breaking, she could smell basically that smell you get from a fresh cut lawn, but just kind of on a massive scale from all the vegetation. Physically, she's fine and her pets are fine. Her house had some damage on it, but compared to the houses you'll see in a minute, not a lot. Now, I've flown drones around this place actually quite a bit, and what I remember from last time, in fact, if you look at my video where I had the DJI goggles, you'll see that was a really, really overgrown area. Like, there were trees everywhere. You couldn't see the road from this house. In fact, you couldn't see any of the neighbors either. You could hear them occasionally, but you couldn't see anyone.
Oh, the wires are still down here. Isn't that crazy?
I had to poke these wires off the roof.
They probably can't get them.
Wow, it's hanging low still over here too. It's been a while. I'm surprised that these things haven't been tidied up a little bit.
Well, they've been putting all the stuff out to the street so the county can come pick it up. That's what all the debris is. But the wires, yeah, I don't know. I mean, look at this. You can see the houses.
Yeah, you couldn't see any of this before. All these other pieces of houses just kind of around. Hey, puppies.
Hey guys. Oh, wow.
Hey. You can hear like chainsaws going, power tools all over the place.
You spell that way. It's like you split from my house.
No.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
All this was covered, Kerrigan.
Yeah,
Her
you
stairs,
couldn't
she
even
couldn't
get
get
to the
down.
stairs to the
I
sidewalk.
remember.
There were limbs all over the sidewalk. Boom. So that's usually the house falling. I did get down to the stream though,
Yeah.
and Toby went down there.
Toby did?
Yes, he did.
What are you
He's still
doing?
trying to get my scent everywhere. Make sure everybody knows I live here.
You're still a happy dog. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog seems fine.
He
now.
looks a lot happier.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That piece of wood
Yeah,
stuck
it's
to
See
still-
the siding, Sean?
You got a 2x4. I really wanted to bust this thing out, but it didn't quite make it. Didn't quite make it. It's amazing to me the scale of damage that can occur in the span of, 45 minutes to an hour. As this thing passed overhead, and it just went through and tore up a whole lot of people's lives. I mean, it's not bad enough that most people are locked up right now in their homes because of, their current situation with COVID. But to deal on top of that with natural disasters literally ripping your home in half, sending it out across the forest. The trees fell in a really odd way around our house. I mean, it's almost circular, it's not quite, and the trees kind of go in different directions. But it seems remarkably lucky that none of the big trees fell on our house. In fact, tended to fall around it. It's been a couple of weeks since the tornado, and you can still hear trees crackling and falling. They're kind of breaking under their weight after they've been bent over. You can see it splitting down at the bottom there. See where it's amazing the scale of the damage is still so severe, after weeks of cleanup. So on the first day, we just picked up some random things and we kind of made a little path over to the mouthway of the pond, which is a natural spring that comes out of the rocks.
Just got to be careful, hope like kudzu or something doesn't take over.
Yeah, we'll have to get goats for that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of sprigs of ivy up there that's come from Jones's house, and of course I did some on that bank. I need to really get in control of that.
Yeah, because those creeping like ground, those creeping ground vines will take over stuff real quick.
Yeah.
That you helped me find sunscreen. You see me?
You're burning up.
Apparently, I didn't even notice, but then she went, "You're burning!"
Where you're like,
Ow!
thank you.
As I went along, I just picked up random debris, just mostly roofing materials and wall materials and siding. I found a personal note that somebody had left and some underwear. In fact, we found a few articles of clothing, which was probably among the most interesting things we found. But we did the best to kind of clean up the debris that was around the house, just to kind of help her out and just make it look better. Those roof shingles are never going anywhere, so until somebody picks them up. The next day we kind of turned our attention to the pond and tried to clear out as much of that as we could. She had fastened a heavy piece of metal to the end of a rope, and Kerrigan and I took turns tossing it into the water and dragging things back. We actually cleared out a lot of stuff that way, pulled a full tree out of there that way, and a whole lot of boards with nails on them.
Wait.
Soon after that, my sister and brother-in-law decided to get in a canoe and see if they could wiggle a few more things free. The pond isn't very large, but it's really hard to get around because the trees that fell around it are particularly huge. So although we tried to hike around to the other side of the pond to pull things out in the same fashion, ultimately a boat was required to get to the other side. In the end, we were able to clean out a fair amount of the pond. It looked a lot better than it did to begin with, so that was at least a kind of a minor victory. All of us have been in isolation for months now, and kind of seen each other through FaceTime. Holly's mom's actually been up here a couple of times, and we've been hanging out together a lot more. But it was really nice to kind of get together with some family and hang out for a little bit. Wish the circumstances were better, but I think we were all glad to have a little bit of company for once.
Are you taking a picture?
Those are the two houses they tore
Yeah.
down. So look at all the trash up here.
I showed the damage of the inside, but you're very pretty.
Alright, wait, are you actually... What? It looks like you're pointing it at me. Are you showing it to Jenny?
Well, she can see it. But she was extremely fortunate, very, very lucky, and we're so glad of that. I do find the sheer power and destruction of storms like that to be really fascinating. So I jumped at the chance to fly my drone around and kind of take a look. But thankfully there is a happy ending, and that she's going to be all right. She's going to rebuild, and life goes on for all of us. Just stop and think about how lucky you are to be alive, to be well taken care of, hopefully. And if you're not, I hope you get that way soon. That's all for now. Follow your bliss. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Your arm will thank you.
Yeah.